Welcome and ladies and gentlemen, to the 90th anniversary season final concert, our third concert experience. It's the Pops concert experience. And today, we're going to be celebrating America in a theme called the American Experience. My name is George Ogata. I am the Diane Avery Weddle Music Director and Conductor of the Reading Symphony Orchestra. And on behalf of the members of our orchestra, I welcome each and every one of you to today's performance. Today, we're going to celebrate all things American. All of our pieces are imbued and saturated with what it means to be an American. And we start today with one of our hallowed cinematic composers, John Williams. His first piece that we're going to play today is the Cowboys Overture, and it comes from a 1972 film called The Cowboys. And it starred a very famous John Wayne in the father figure role. He becomes a mentor to all of these young cowboys. And this piece really captures the essence of what it means to be a cowboy. So we hope you enjoy our first piece, The Cowboys Overture of John Williams. Thank you. was a way to get my blood pumping. Well, we move on to another Williams piece. This time, we go to 1998, when Saving Private Ryan made its debut in the movie theaters. I personally remember being there in the very first week of its showing and being absolutely moved by the experience. The hymn to the fallen occurs at the very end. It is Williams' tribute to the fallen in World War II. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're now going to conclude our first half with yet another hymn, the Battle Hymn of the Republic. It was composed originally by Steph, and the words were adapted to the current form by Julia Howe. And it is in this form that we know it really today. It was popularized during the Civil War, and it was really the Union's battle cry. We hope you enjoy Battle Hymn of the Republic. Thank you for that applause. I really appreciate it. We're now going to move on into our intermission. We have 2 concert experience activities for you. So I want to thank the members of the board for coming up with this idea, and Rob, thank you for the wording here too. First of all, we have what's called Operation Gratitude. So we'll be making cards available at the desk to all of you, the members of our audience, to write a suggested note that we will mail through Operation Gratitude to troops all over the world. This small gesture is greatly appreciated by the recipients who cherish any and all forms of mail or appreciation. They can also, so they can be picked up during intermission at the front desk and be returned to there. And just to let you know, the website is operationgratitude.com. That's the first activity. The second one is the Wounded Warrior Project. A box will be available for cash, check, or etc. in any amount donated to the Reading Symphony, and all donations will be sent to Wounded Warrior. Donations can make a life-changing difference to those who have been injured while serving our country. The box for donations will be available at the desk at the beginning of the performance, during intermission, and at the end of the performance as well. Just to let you know, the website is woundedwarriorproject.org. We hope you will support 1 or 2 of those activities. Thank you so much, and we'll see you after the intermission. Thank you. Welcome to the second half of our Pops concert experience called the American Experience. Before we get started in our second half, there are some people that I would like to recognize as having contributed so deeply to the soul of our orchestra. First of all, one of our board members is stepping down as vice president, and I just wanted to recognize Stephanie Berry for her service with the board. She was just really gung-ho from the very, very beginning and helped get us organized. So first of all, I just want to recognize Stephanie. So over this past year, we've had 3 long-standing members of the Reading Symphony Orchestra retire. And I just want to recognize these 3 folks in particular because they have been truly contributors and members and part of the spirit of the Reading Symphony Orchestra for many, many years. So I would like to recognize each one of them. First of all, Jeffrey H. Everson. Jeff joined the second violin section in 1978. He also served on the board of directors for 12 years, including 5 years as president of the board. He also chaired the Symphony's 50th anniversary celebration, that was 40 years ago, and was a member of 2 conductor search committees. We are also pleased that our most recently endowed chair will be the Dr. Jeffrey Everson Chair in the second violin section. Could you stand up? The second retiring member is Ann W. Decker. Ann joined the second violin section in 1973 and served as the principal of the section for many years. She also served on the board of directors for 12 years, including 7 years as secretary and 2 years as president of the board. Ann, we thank you for your service. Ann, where are you? Ann? Thank you, Ann. The final person actually is sitting right next to Ann. It's Dwight T. Decker, her husband. And Dwight joined the clarinet section in 1973. He served on the board of directors and was president for 10 years. Actually, he was president from 2015 to 2025 now. And that's why, instead of me going down there, I'm going to ask Dwight to come up here if you can. Dwight, in recognition of your 10 years of service as president of the board, we wanted to recognize you with this very plaque. And also, you have some tickets to the Boston Symphony Orchestra, that other orchestra, right here for your enjoyment. So, Dwight helped, during the COVID era, he made sure that themes kept on going. He was the unsung hero to make sure that the machine kept on being oiled and run. And I am absolutely, and we are absolutely indebted as the orchestra to you for your service to the orchestra. Thank you so much, Dwight. One second as we transition.
Well, after all of those presentations by our maestro, we now have several presentations from the orchestra to our maestro. First of all, we have a plaque. This is our 10th anniversary. This is our 10th anniversary, and the plaque reads, Reading Symphony Orchestra, 10th Anniversary Season, Fall 2014 to Spring 2025. Congratulations on your 10th anniversary with the RSO. Thank you for your passion, dedication, and leadership. We look forward to the next decade. George Ogata, Music Director and Conductor. We couldn't leave you without this. There is a photo, which we know you love, with everyone signed.
I will.
We have
Look at the photo.
with all of the orchestra, and a subscription to the BSO for next year.
I'm deeply honored. Thank you very much, everybody. 10 years has passed by so quickly, and I have seen this orchestra grow, and I have especially appreciated my relationship with this orchestra in them believing in me, them believing in our mission. But I want to thank all of you for being with us in those 10 years I've been here. Thank you for your continued patronage. Thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for being a part of us, because an orchestra truly is not its complete self without people to listen and experience it. So thank you, members of the audience as well. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on with the concert experience. So our second half, we begin with the American composer Morton Gould. This is American Salute, and it's based on the theme of When Johnny Comes Marching Home. It was written in 1942 in preparation for a radio show to kind of rally everyone and improve the morale of the United States. And it is said that he wrote this in 8 hours. I can't believe it. Well, actually, I can believe it, because he was such a genius of a composer. So we hope you enjoy American Salute. Our next piece is by Aaron Copland. He is the iconic American composer. And this piece is called Variations on a Shaker Melody. You might recognize this piece if you also know his Appalachian Spring, the ballet suite. And this is an excerpt from that very piece. This is based on a shaker poem, a melody called Simple Gifts. And I just wanted to read out loud what the words are to this particular song. "'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning, we come round right." We'll now play Aaron Copland's Variations on a Shaker Melody. our final piece is by Victor Herbert, and this is his American Fantasia. It is a mixture, a panoply, a smorgasbord of many, many different songs. Hail Columbia, you'll hear Dixie, and especially at the very end, our very own Star Spangled Banner. So we hope you enjoy this kind of summary piece that really ties it all, the American Fantasia by Victor Herbert. that warm applause. We have a little treat for you. First of all, I want to recognize those people who have served for our country in the military. Would you please stand up? We want to recognize you. Thank you for your service to our country. We really appreciate it. And we hope this concert experience was meaningful for you with all of this Americana music. We are dedicated to you, we are now going to play our all-time favorite, Stars and Stripes Forever. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being part of the American experience. We now conclude our 90th anniversary season. We look forward to having you involved in our 91st, and that's going to start in the fall. So thank you very much for being here, and we hope you enjoy today's concert experience. Please have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.